Welcome to another deep dive. I'm really excited about this one. This collection of material is so interesting. We've got, let's see, self-help articles, some philosophical excerpts, even a few advice lists. But you know what really ties it all together?
What's that?
Well, it's this question of how we find true fulfillment. You know, like in a world that's so obsessed with external validation.
Yeah.
It's like personal growth, but on a much deeper level.
Yeah. I was so struck by how interconnected all these sources are. I mean, even though they come from such different places, it's like they're all pieces of this puzzle.
Right.
Showing us how to live a more authentic life.
And like one that's on your terms, not society's.
Exactly.
And, you know, going through all this stuff, there's some really thought-provoking questions that come up. Like, can we actually retrain our brain
Interesting.
to find happiness in the NOW instead of always chasing after some future goal?
Right.
And what about these shadow cells? How do they mess up our relationships without us even realizing it? This is deep stuff.
It really is. It's like we've been conditioned to think happiness is this, like destination.
Oh, yeah.
That we get to by checking off all these boxes. The right job, the perfect partner.
That Instagram-worthy life.
Exactly. But these sources, they challenge that whole idea.
Yeah.
They're saying maybe, just maybe, real fulfillment, it comes from embracing the messiness, the discomfort,
Right.
even those parts of ourselves that we'd rather hide.
Okay, so let's dive into that. Reframing happiness.
Okay.
We're definitely not talking about like toxic positivity
Right.
or ignoring real problems.
Right.
It's more about ditching these shallow, often external ideas of what happiness should look like.
Right.
And, you know, one thing that really struck me is this concept of an upper limit.
I know, it's fascinating.
This idea that we subconsciously sabotage our own happiness.
Right.
Because we're afraid of what might happen
Exactly.
if we actually achieve it.
Yeah, we think we want happiness.
Yeah.
But then we hit a certain level of success, joy. Suddenly, we're making choices that undermine it all.
It's crazy.
And the sources suggest that this comes from deep-seated fears. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, even fear of losing what we have.
It makes sense. But how do we break that pattern?
Right.
It feels so, like, subconscious.
It is. And that's where awareness comes in. A lot of these sources talk about the importance of becoming more mindful of our thoughts, feelings, behaviors. Not about blaming ourselves, but just noticing those patterns of self-sabotage and gently challenging them.
One source actually suggested keeping a journal,
Oh, interesting.
specifically to track those moments when we feel that upper limit kicking in.
Oh, I like that.
It's like becoming a detective of your own mind, figuring out what triggers those fears, and then how can we respond differently.
Exactly. And it's not about being like some perfect, fearless being.
Right.
It's about recognizing that discomfort. That's part of growth. One source used this analogy of a lobster. You know, how it has to shed its shell in order to grow.
Oh, yeah.
That process is uncomfortable, even painful.
Yeah.
But it's necessary for the lobster to, reach its full potential.
I love that. So instead of avoiding discomfort, we can learn to see it as a sign
Exactly.
that we're stretching ourselves, that we're on the verge of something new.
Exactly. And, it's not about becoming some emotionless robot.
Right.
It's about, learning to navigate those feelings with awareness, grace.
One source had a great quote: "The happiness of grace is gratitude."
I love that.
It's about appreciating what we have, the small joys, the connections, even the struggles that shape us.
Absolutely.
You know, so many of these sources talk about the importance of gratitude, and not just as a feel-good practice, but as a way to actually rewire our brains to focus on the positive.
Yeah, it's about shifting our perspective
Yeah.
from what we lack to what we have.
Yeah.
And it's not ignoring the negative,
Right.
but rather choosing to focus on the good, even when things are tough.
One source even talked about how gratitude can actually improve our physical health.
Oh, wow.
Reduce stress, boost our immune systems, even improve sleep quality. It's like a superpower.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's one we can all cultivate. One simple practice that was suggested, keeping a gratitude journal. Just taking a few minutes every day to write down things we're grateful for.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but it can be incredibly powerful.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
This whole idea of doing nothing as a path to both productivity and de-happiness.
I love that.
I mean, it seems like every productivity guru out there is all about hustle, hustle, hustle.
Right. But what if slowing down, allowing ourselves time for true rest, what if that's the secret weapon we've all been missing?
Right. And I love how these sources didn't just say, like, rest is good. They actually got into the science of it.
Yes.
Talking about how our brains are actually doing crucial work during downtime. You know, like processing experiences, consolidating memories. One even compared it to how muscles need rest to recover and grow stronger.
It makes so much sense.
And it's not just about like physical rest either. It's mental rest too. Disconnecting from technology, letting our minds wander.
Right.
Engaging in activities that bring us joy, but without any pressure to produce or achieve.
Exactly.
One of the sources had this amazing quote: "Idleness is not just a vacation. It is as indispensable to the brain as vitamin D is to the body."
Wow, I love that.
So we're not just being lazy, we're actually doing something essential for our well-being.
Right. It's about recognizing that constant productivity, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the path to true happiness.
No, we need time to recharge, to let our minds wander, to simply be.
I love that.
Okay, this next topic. It feels so relevant, especially nowadays. Social sensitivity and anxiety. It's like we're constantly bombarded with images, messages telling us we need to be perfect, popular, and always on. And the sources, they really get into the roots of social anxiety, you know, exploring how it comes from this deep-seated fear of judgment. They even talk about this thing called the spotlight complex.
Oh, yeah.
Which is this, like, distorted perception that everyone is constantly watching our every move.
It's like we're living in our own reality show.
You're right. With this imaginary audience judging our every word and action. No wonder we're anxious.
Exactly. And the sources offer some really practical advice for challenging these anxieties. One thing that stuck out to me was this idea.
Okay.
Identify those specific people that we imagine are judging us.
Oh, that's so interesting, because a lot of times it's not even real people. It's like projections of our own insecurities.
Exactly. We're essentially judging ourselves.
Wow.
And once we see those patterns, then we can start to challenge them. Another thing the sources suggest, focus on our reactions rather than trying to control how other people act.
Right.
I mean, we can't control what people think or say,
Yeah.
but we can control how we respond.
One source even suggested reframing social situations
Oh, interesting.
as opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing them as tests that we need to pass, we can approach them with curiosity, a willingness to learn.
Love that.
And it's not about like becoming a social butterfly if that's not you.
Right.
It's about finding ways to engage with others in a way that feels authentic and comfortable.
One of the sources had this amazing quote: "The way we raise adults who don't struggle with anxiety is by being adults who accept anxiety." It's a good reminder that, you know, we all experience these uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We can be kind to ourselves and to others in those moments.
It's about normalizing those feelings.
Exactly.
And creating a space where it's okay to be vulnerable. And that leads us perfectly into another important theme that's woven throughout these sources.
Well,
Relationships as mirrors.
I love that idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Because relationships can be such incredible teachers,
Yes.
but they can also be really challenging, especially if we're like bringing a lot of baggage into them.
Right. And the sources, they highlight how relationships, romantic or otherwise, they're amazing opportunities for self-discovery. They're not about finding someone to fix us, but someone who can reflect back those unhealed parts of ourselves, you know, those shadow selves we've been talking about.
There's that quote: "The purpose of our relationship is not to fix us, but to show us where we need fixing."
I love that.
Right.
And it's not about blaming our partners for our issues,
Right.
but seeing those challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. One source even suggested, the qualities we dislike most in other people, they're often the qualities we're resisting in ourselves or haven't dealt with within ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It's true. It's like we're projecting our own shadow selves onto the people around us. But instead of getting defensive or blaming others, we can use those moments as opportunities to look inward.
Exactly. And one source even suggested that all hatred is actually self-hatred. It's a powerful reminder to cultivate compassion for ourselves and for others. Because when we judge others, we're often projecting our own insecurities and unhealed wounds.
So much to unpack there. And speaking of unpacking, we've only scratched the surface of all this wisdom in these sources.
No, right?
We've just started to explore this world of personal growth and self-discovery.
It's a fascinating journey.
So stick with us as we continue to dive deep into these incredible sources. We've got a lot more ground to cover.
I can't wait. Thinking about those shadow selves, it makes you think about how we try to present this perfect image.
Oh, totally. Especially in our 20s.
Right.
Like, we're supposed to have it all figured out.
The career, the relationship.
The perfect Instagram life.
Exactly. But the sources highlight the power of starting over.
Oh, love that.
Even if it feels like too late.
Yeah.
They suggest that those societal timelines, the ones we all internalize, they can be so limiting.
I love that. It reminds me of this quote, your 20s are more about unlearning than anything else.
Oh, that's good.
Shedding those old identities, those beliefs that don't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
It can be scary.
It can.
But also incredibly liberating.
One source even compared it to a caterpillar becoming a butterfly.
Ooh.
This process of complete surrender.
Wow.
Embracing the unknown.
That's beautiful. And it makes me think about how much pressure we put on ourselves.
Yes.
To be extraordinary all the time.
Right. Like we have to be constantly achieving.
One source actually had a whole section on expectations we need to let go of in our 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Like this idea that we're meant to be extraordinary or that we can control what other people think of us.
It's so true. We're always trying to live up to this impossible standard.
Exactly. Which just leads to exhaustion.
Yeah, and disappointment.
Right. And it ties into this bigger theme from the sources.
Okay.
Focusing on how our lives feel.
Yes.
Not just how they look.
So important.
Right. Going beyond those external markers of success. Tuning into what truly brings us joy.
That deeper level of fulfillment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One source had this great exercise. Imagine we're on our deathbeds, looking back on our lives. What would we regret?
That is powerful.
Right. Would it be the things we didn't buy? Or the moments we didn't fully experience?
The connections we missed.
The things we were too afraid to try?
It gets to the heart of what these sources are about.
Right. Aligning our lives with our values. Creating a life that feels meaningful.
And authentic.
Yes. Recognizing that true happiness, it doesn't come from external validation.
It comes from within.
Exactly. And one source even said comparing our lives to others is like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah. Love that.
They're completely different fruits. Focus on our own journeys.
Yes.
Celebrate our unique gifts and accomplishments.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the minimalism discussion in some of these sources.
Oh, yeah. That's a good connection.
It's not about deprivation. It's about letting go of things that don't truly matter.
Making space for what does.
One source talked about how clutter can be a reflection of mental and emotional clutter.
Interesting.
Simplifying our lives to create space for joy and fulfillment.
They even suggested a spend cleanse.
Oh, wow.
Only using what we already have for a certain time.
Okay.
To challenge our consumerist habits.
Yeah.
Realize how much we already have.
It's about shifting our focus from acquiring more to appreciating what we have.
Right. Finding contentment in the simple pleasures.
Exactly.
One thing that keeps coming up.
What's that?
This idea of embracing discomfort.
Okay.
Or healthy discomfort.
Interesting. Seems counterintuitive.
Right. We're always told to avoid pain, seek pleasure.
But these sources suggest pain and discomfort are inevitable parts of life. And resisting them only makes them stronger.
Oh, interesting.
By leaning into those challenging emotions, we develop resilience.
And emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
One source even said that feeling unsure of who we are can actually lead to something better. It's in those moments of uncertainty, questioning, exploring, that we discover our true selves.
I love that. Embracing the messiness of the journey.
Right. Growth happens outside our comfort zones.
Totally.
I'm also intrigued by this idea of mental laziness.
Oh, yeah. Several sources mention that.
But it's not about being physically lazy, right?
Yeah, it's about neglecting our mental and emotional well-being.
Okay.
Knowing we should be practicing mindfulness.
Meditating, yeah.
Tending to our inner gardens.
But we choose distraction instead.
Scrolling, numbing out.
One source put it bluntly, you should be more present, but you won't put in the effort to practice it.
Ouch.
That hit a little close to home.
It did for me, too.
But it's a good reminder. Creating a fulfilling life takes effort.
Intention.
Yeah. Making choices that nourish our souls.
Even when it's easier to choose distraction.
So instead of passively consuming information, we can actively engage with the world.
Exactly. One source even suggested creating our own holiday traditions.
Oh, interesting.
Rituals and celebrations that reflect who we are.
taking back control of our calendars.
Yes.
Filling them with experiences that light us up.
Rather than just going through the motions.
That. Creating a life that feels intentional.
Aligned with our values.
Not just reacting to what's happening around us.
And recognizing that we have the power to shape our own experiences.
One source even said, passion is born of attachment. Logic counteracts it.
That's interesting.
Right. So using our rational minds to guide us.
Especially when those passionate impulses might lead us astray.
So not denying our passions.
No.
But balancing them with logic and reason.
Exactly. Making grounded and sustainable choices.
The sources also talked about understanding how habits work.
Oh, yeah, that's key.
Consciously creating new habits to rewire our brains.
To support the lives we want.
And they broke down the 3 stages of habit formation.
Cognitive, associative, and autonomous.
Right. One source said most people give up between associative and autonomous.
Because it gets tough.
Yeah.
We're not seeing results yet.
It's like that point where we're putting in effort, but the new behavior hasn't become automatic.
Right.
So easy to give up then.
But the sources remind us, lasting change takes time.
Consistency.
Focusing on our why.
The reason for the new habit.
Keeps us motivated when it's tough.
They also had tips for staying on track.
Like what?
Celebrating small wins, reframing our expectations.
Well, I like that.
Recognizing progress isn't always linear.
There will be setbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be kind to ourselves through the process.
Small steps forward are still steps in the right direction.
Okay, this next topic feels a little heavy,
Okay.
but important. The sources mentioned mental breakdowns, which a lot of people can relate to.
Unfortunately, yes.
It can be a scary and overwhelming experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But one source reframed mental breakdowns as potential breakthroughs.
Wow, I've never thought about it that way.
They said those intense struggles can be opportunities for growth.
So not failures or signs of weakness?
No, catalysts for change.
One source even had signs that your breakdown is actually a breakthrough.
Interesting.
Questioning everything, not being defined by your thoughts.
Reclaiming your power.
Right. Not being a victim of your own mind.
Creating a life that feels authentic.
And that leads to another theme.
What's that?
Our past experiences, even the painful ones, shape us.
It's not about dwelling on the past.
Right. But recognizing how they've made us stronger.
More resilient.
One source said, reflect on those past experiences.
The things we thought we'd never get over.
And see how insignificant they seem now.
Time heals.
What feels insurmountable today might be a distant memory tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I also loved the list of things you would tell your younger self.
Oh, yeah. That was full of wisdom.
One piece of advice. You do not need to be exceptionally beautiful or talented or successful to experience the things that make life profound. Love, knowledge, connection, community, and so on.
That's beautiful. It's a reminder that those profound experiences are available to all of us.
Regardless of external achievements or appearances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognizing our inherent worthiness.
Embracing the fullness of our human experience.
So much wisdom in these sources.
I know, right? We could talk for hours.
We've covered a lot, but there's still more to explore.
Stick with us as we continue our deep dive.
You know, one thing that's become so clear through all of this,
What's that?
the power of mindset shifts.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about like little tips here and there. It's changing how we see ourselves and the world.
One source compared it to upgrading our mental operating system,
Oh, interesting.
ditching the negativity, self-doubt, scarcity,
Yeah.
installing a new system based on self-compassion, abundance.
Possibility.
Exactly. Like cleaning out that mental junk drawer,
Haha. I like that.
making space for amazing things.
One source even suggested rearranging our furniture.
Really?
Yeah, to shift perspective, get unstuck.
Interesting.
Our environment influences our mental state.
It's true. It can.
Like hitting reset on our surroundings helps us reset our minds.
The sources had other tips for mindset shifts too.
Like what?
Spending time in nature, creative activities.
Even a long drive to clear your head.
Exactly. Things that quiet the mental chatter.
Help us reconnect with ourselves.
One source talked about stretching our brains,
How so?
learning something new,
Okay.
a book on a fascinating topic, a new hobby,
Keep our minds active.
but in an expansive, exciting way.
I like that. And it all ties into this bigger theme.
Which is?
Cultivating awareness of ourselves and the world around us.
Awareness is like a superpower.
It really is. Allows us to see things more clearly.
Make conscious choices.
Create a life that reflects our values.
One source put it this way: the art of awareness, or how to not completely hate yourself.
That's powerful.
Recognizing those negative patterns, choosing a different path.
We become the observers of our own minds.
Rather than being controlled by them.
And awareness isn't just inward, right?
Right. It's also paying attention to the world.
Seeing those interconnected systems.
Understanding the impact of our choices.
One source even said to become more aware of the positive things happening.
Well, that's math.
Increase social sensitivity, people questioning the system.
Breaking down old structures.
Right. Still work to do, but a lot to celebrate too.
Absolutely. And speaking of celebrating, these sources emphasize celebrating ourselves.
Oh, I love that.
Our unique qualities, accomplishments, even imperfections.
Embracing our whole selves.
Flaws and all.
We are worthy of love and acceptance exactly as we are.
One source had a list. 101 things that are more important than what your body looks like.
Wow, that's a good one.
Shifting focus from external markers to those inner qualities that truly make us beautiful.
And true beauty isn't conforming to some standard.
No, it's about individuality, authenticity.
Things that make us uniquely us.
Right.
You know, I really resonated with the discussion of loneliness.
Oh, yeah. That came up a lot.
And how it's often more about our perception than actual circumstances.
One source even said, loneliness is just an idea.
Wow, I like that.
We're never truly alone.
We're all connected.
Cultivating relationships with ourselves and others.
That bring belonging and purpose.
One source even suggested solitude can be a source of strength.
Oh, interesting.
Self-discovery. Embracing those quiet moments.
Disconnecting from the noise. Reconnecting with inner wisdom.
And one of the most powerful insights.
What's that?
We don't have to love ourselves perfectly to be worthy.
That is so liberating.
Right. One source said, loving yourself is letting yourself be loved too.
It's recognizing our worthiness, opening ourselves to receive love.
And that's really the heart of it all.
Yeah.
Cultivating self-love and compassion, recognizing our worth.
And they give us the tools to do it.
Practicing gratitude, setting boundaries, speaking our truth.
Surrounding ourselves with supportive people.
Creating a life that feels authentic.
Aligned with our values.
Nourishing our souls, letting our light shine.
We've covered so much today.
We have.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for life.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been amazing exploring these ideas with you.
Before we wrap up, one final thought from the sources.
Okay.
It's a question to reflect on. If all hatred is self-hatred, how can we cultivate more compassion for ourselves and others?
That's a powerful question, especially now.
It reminds us we all shared this human experience.
With all its joys and sorrows.
Triumphs and struggles.
And it challenges us to choose empathy, understanding, love.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep exploring these ideas, apply them to your life.
Share your reflections with us.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, keep shining your light.